No other program makes menu item selection for a party as easy as Quantities software does. Not only can you easily drag and drop items from your default menus into any event, but you can also establish default quantities for items or even link their quantities to the guest counts of your parties. To see how this is set up, let's go to the Setup sidebar on the left side of the screen, and then I'll open my program's default menus in Menu Manager. Now, for my first example, I'll jump into the AV equipment menu, and then you probably know every grid in the program can be customized. I will click the Quick Column Customizing button and choose to show the column Default Quantity. And you'll see here that every menu item in my AV equipment has a default quantity of 1. I usually rent these things one at a time. So this means if I ever pull any of these items into a party, the quantity will default to 1. And then, of course, if the needs of the party are different, I can change that quantity on the fly. But most of the time, it's one less thing I need to worry about. Now, as a second example, I'm going to jump into my hors d'oeuvres menu and specifically take a look at my hot hors d'oeuvres. Now, the first thing you'll notice is that every item in this menu is blue. I'm going to click that Quick Column Customizing button again, and I will add the column Linked to this grid. And you will see that I have chosen to link the quantities of my hot hors d'oeuvres to the guest counts of any various parties I might use them for. But it gets even cooler than this. If you look at my dynamite shrimp, which is served 100 per order, you will see that I have given it a default quantity of 0.01, meaning I need 1 order for every 100 people. By the way, if your numbers weren't quite so easy, you could always use a drop-down calculator tool to help you do the math. So what this means is Quantities will take this default quantity and it will multiply it times the guest count, which is great if I have 100 guests or 200 guests. But what if I have some random number that's not quite that simple? I'm going to go back to the Quick Column Customizing tool, and this time I will show the column Rounding. And you will see that I have told the program to round my quantities up because I'm not making a fraction order of my dynamite shrimp. Of course, you could click in the rounding column and choose to round it down or half up or other options as well. Now, let's get out of Menu Manager and let's see how this works in action. I will open an event in my Event Manager, and you'll see that this party has a guest count of 130 people. I will go into the sub-event display where you manage your meals, and then I will click the Select Menus button, and I'll jump into my AV equipment menu and grab the wood grain podium. You'll notice that the podium automatically defaults to a quantity of 1 because that's how I usually rent it. Again, I could click right here and edit if I needed to, but most of the time, my job is done. Now, let's go back into the default menus, and this time I'll jump into my hot hors d'oeuvres menu and I will grab the dynamite shrimp. You'll notice that the quantity of shrimp defaults to 2. Why? Because I have 130 guests at this party and I'm not making 1.3 orders of dynamite shrimp. I've asked it to round up. Now, let me jump into the craft beer bar, and I'm going to go back into my menus and grab that same dynamite shrimp. You'll notice this time it defaults to a quantity of 1. Why? Because I only have 50 people coming to the craft beer bar. Again, I'm not going to make half of a shrimp order, so it's dividing by the guest count of this specific meal and then again rounding up. Now, I'm going to double click on this meal, this sub event, so you can see that under the Tools dropdown, you have the option to automatically link the guests of a meal to the overall guests of the event itself. I don't want to do that for this craft beer bar, but I might want to do it for the lunch buffet. That means if I go to the general event details and I adjust this number to 135, when I go back to my sub-event display, the guest count of my lunch buffet would adjust automatically. Right now, it doesn't impact my dynamite shrimp, but if you had other menu items linked to the guest count, the math would recalculate automatically. Now, one last thing here for you to consider. I'll get out of Event Manager, of course saving the changes I've made to this party, and I'm going to click the Administration ribbon tab at the top of the screen and go to the General button and choose the option New Booking Defaults. This is where you establish defaults for new records you create in the program, and if I click on the Sub-Events tab, one of the options is to have every new sub-event you create automatically link its guest count to the guest count of the overall event. Of course, you can change this setting on the fly from party to party, but if most of your parties have one meal, then this setting certainly makes sense to save you time. And isn't that what these features are all about? Think about the time you can save by having Quantities automatically default your menu item quantities for you and automatically calculate quantities based on the guest counts of your parties. This is incredible functionality, and you'll only find it in Quantities software.